there was times when they would ask us, hey, what do you guys want to accomplish this year? And then we'd go to our team and we'd all talk and collaborate, and we'd put a couple goals up on there. And then it turned into, hey, this is what you guys want to accomplish. We as a coaching staff are going to do everything we can to help you achieve your goals. And right away, then they're bought in.
Welcome. We have Joe Semanoff here with us on Beyond the Game. My name is Mike Lacey, and it's awesome to have you here, Joe. Another fullback. I mean, how are people going to stand having two of the best athletes in front of them here on our podcast?
I know. We're a dying breed.
A dying breed.
Yeah.
I know.
We are.
I mean, we'll need to talk about this one-back set versus the two-back set. We're going to have to convince these offensive coordinators about the error of their ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should.
Joe, tell us about yourself. What I know is that you're working in medical devices. You were a fullback with a whole, you said earlier, running back by committee. And these were some of the greatest names, including Harvey Unga, but Manase Tonga, Fui Vakapuna, Joe Semanoff. I mean, how did you get any repetitions with all those great running backs back then?
Yeah. I mean, even before that, I grew up in Philadelphia, and I was a tailback. I was an all-state tailback in Pennsylvania. And so I came out and walked onto the team in 2001.
Really?
And so I don't know if you remember, we had a pretty good running back then by a guy named Luke Staley.
I remember Luke Staley. He was great, wasn't he?
Yeah. And so I had a little bit of just kind of, going into the running back room and seeing a celebrity in there, as Luke's calves were the celebrity.
Yeah, I remember the video of behind him. Yes, but you're right.
Yeah, so, those years where it was Luke, it was Brian McDonald, and then it was Curtis Brown and Fahu Tahi, and then it was, Fui, Manase, and Harvey, along the way. So, we had a lot of great running backs. I had a lot of guys that pulled me along and coached me up. But really, junior and senior year was really running back by committee. I mean, we had our premier guys. Junior year was Curtis Brown there and supporting cast with me, Fui, and Manase, and then Harvey coming in my senior year, 2007, to be a premier back and having the support, with the rest of us. It was one of those things where, a rising tide, lifts all ships. And that's kind of how we were in the running back room. We all wanted to win. Everybody supported each other. We had the most inclusive, supportive running back group that I've seen really there. For four guys to be splitting time.
It's hard, isn't it? I mean, in the locker room, some teams, that's where guys get at each other.
It is.
So it doesn't sound like that was the case on your team.
No, not at all. I think a lot of it had to do with Coach Reynolds. He was an amazing coach.
Now, let me stop you right there. Okay, now, Lance Reynolds, this always surprised me because I was actually living in New Mexico back then, and Lance Reynolds, one of my favorite coaches, and we actually played on the same team for a little bit, and then I went away on my mission. But Lance is this giant of a man, offensive tackle, a very big guy. What in the world was Lance Reynolds coaching a bunch of offensive running backs for? This? It always surprised me. I wanted to tease him. Tell me what it was like, because Lance is smart, bright, one of the best coaches. How was it having an ex-offensive lineman coaching you at offensive back?
Coach Reynolds was incredible. All across the board. He did the soft skills very well, and then the X's and O's he knew better than anybody.
Really?
To the point where I think having him come from the line coach and his experience in the offensive line really helped us at running back, because we understood all of the offensive line's blocking schemes as well as they did and knew what blitz packages were. And really, you have to integrate with the offensive line. And so
True.
we were walking through all the time. I mean, really, I was just a I was just a backfield lineman, really. A lot of those times.
Well, at fullback, when you've got Harvey Unga or someone like that behind you,
right.
A lot of times my big job when I was playing fullback was, I got to go knock that Sam linebacker out or the middle linebacker, and we were big enough to do it, right, Joe?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes.
I know, man. Sometimes you get a DN come in unblocked.
Oh, man. Jacob Green played for Texas A&M. He ended up being all pro, everything in the NFL. And we were playing A&M, and on one, not a sweep, it was a swing pass. And it was my job as the fullback to go out and get his outside hip, so that our quarterback, who was scrambling to his left, Mark Wilson, would have a free shot. Jacob Green, I went to his outside leg, and I'm not small, 6'3", 225 back then was a good-sized fullback. And Jacob Green threw me like a rag doll. So anyway, I've been there too, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, so you had to, sometimes you won, but sometimes we didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And the hope was just that it would take some time for him to run over me.
Right. But I was so impressed back then with your teams, how big and strong and elusive some of you running backs were. And I particularly remember a bowl game, the Las Vegas Bowl, when you guys took on Oregon. It was a big game, and you guys handled them pretty well.
Yeah, that was a fun game. We came out, I think it was 38-8. That's just off the top of my head. It's something like that.
It was a good win.
Yeah, it was a great
and
win.
Oregon back then was every bit, as big nationally as they are today.
Right. And at the time, I don't know if you remember, Coach Crowton was coach for Oregon.
Was he?
Mm-hmm.
I was unaware of that.
Yep. And so I came in, now fact check me on that one, but when I came in to BYU, Coach Crowton, he was my coach his first year, 2001.
Okay. And
then I came back from the mission and played 2004, and that was his last year.
I see.
So then I got to play against him, in the bowl game there. But yeah, it's like I said, we had a running back package that could kind of do all of it. And when you look at a guy like Harvey, I mean, he weighed in at, mid 230s, but he ran like a 200-pound back.
He was, I don't know how fast he was, but laterally and his quickness, his footwork, his agility, for a big guy, he was all bigger than me, actually. He ran really well. He was able to evade tacklers and make them look silly sometimes.
Yeah, he was fun to play with, fun to watch, really soft hands, could catch really well out of the backfield, and he was just slippery. No one could get a solid shot on him. And for how big he was, it was fun to play with a talent like Harv.
No doubt. I ran into him. Did you go to that 100 years of BYU football last summer?
I did not make it.
You didn't make it?
No.
I was there, and I sat right in front of him. So impressed with all that he's doing now and all that he did back then. What a good young man. I call him a young man because he's younger than me, right? And you are too. So you need to defer to your elders.
Okay.
It's so funny how I ran into you, Joe, because I remember your name. I remember you as a player on our team, but my wife and I hired a physical trainer who we just love, Jess Brewerton. But you and Jess Brewerton are friends, and he said, "Do you know Joe Semanoff?" And then he showed me a picture of you. And how do you know Jess Brewerton, this famous athletic trainer?
Well, that's funny. Yeah, I was the best man in his wedding.
Really?
Yeah. But we go, way back. I graduated with a degree in exercise science.
Mm-hmm.
I was on my way to physical therapy school, but I started personal training. And so I was renting space in a studio, and Jess was in there as well. He's running the same space. And so that was maybe 2008.
So does that put you in competition with him, or you're just, sharing space?
Oh, sharing space, not really competition.
Okay.
We'd refer each other, clients. Both of us have kind of a different training technique. And different clientele first.
I've talked to some of our current football players at BYU, and they've all expressed some interesting attitudes about coming to BYU. You came here from Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia?
Yep, that's right. North
That's
of Philadelphia.
Long way away. How in the world did you end up at BYU from Philadelphia?
Yeah. You know, my sister was a student here at BYU. She's 2.5 years older than me. And
I think you said that your stake president was Fui Vakapuna.
not stake. He was in the stake south of mine.
Okay.
But I knew.
But you knew of him.
Yep. I knew of him when I was at BYU. You know, is when I got to know him some more, and my parents got to know him, and would see him at stake activities. But, you know, I came out and I ended up walking on. So I came in as a preferred walk-on. So, you know, my sister.
And this was Gary Crowton?
That was Gary Crowton. That's right. But at the time, the running back coach was Paul Tidwell.
Okay.
And so, you know, went to coach, and I reached out, and I basically got denied. I applied. So what I was going to do, I was going to apply for school, and then
you got denied into getting into the school.
Yep. Because I didn't have a scholarship, didn't have an offer, and so I ended up cutting a highlight reel. Back in the day, you had 2, you know, VHS tapes back and forth. Can't believe I'm saying that. I sound real old, but I sent it over to my sister, and she walked it in the coach's office.
Really?
Coach Tidwell's office. She's like, "Hey, my brother's an all-state, you know, running back, and he's pretty good. I want you to look at his film." So he calls me, and then he's like, "All right." He's like, "Just brag." He's like, "You know, don't be humble. Tell me about accolades in high school, things that you've done." So I went into track and basketball and, you know, some other things. And
what'd you do in track?
So I 100, 4x1, shot put and discus.
Wow.
And I was just okay. I was pretty good. Competed in the state meet. I think I ended up being 12th in the state in discus, and I think we were maybe 8th in 4x1 relay. Anyway.
But you were a sprinter.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, Gary Crowton asked you to brag on yourself. Yeah. So you're, you know, you're giving him some data.
Tell my story. And then sure enough, you know, a couple weeks later, I get an acceptance letter in the mail from BYU. And, you know, coach calls me and he's like, "Hey, we don't have a scholarship open for you, but we'd love for you to come in and walk on." So I didn't have to try out, but I came in when school started in there with Luke Staley and those guys with Coach Tidwell. So yeah, that was the long journey. I ended up driving. I had an old '88 Honda Accord. I drove across the country on my own. Wow. And kind of came out. And
this was it was 2001.
2001, that's right.
And you had an '88 Honda Accord.
Yeah, that's right.
I owned one of the first Honda Accords. I was on campus, when I came back from my mission, it was 1970. I think it was 78, my redshirt year, that I got a Honda Accord. So that was 10 years before yours. But I mean, that's an old car for a young man in the 2000s.
Yeah. So came through, and, you know, played some scout team running back that first year. And just like you said, you know, competing and getting tossed around. I remember when I first, as a walk-on, coming in as a, you know, running back and tailback, I had my first kind of welcome to the NFL moment, you know, in college, where, you know, they dropped the card.
High school and college are way different, aren't they, brother?
What a difference. So I, you know, dropped the card, and it's a pitch to the right, toss right. And so, you know. And
are you running against first team D?
First string defense.
Yeah, you're running, and you're the scout team.
That's right.
And is it a game week that you're preparing for? Okay, so you're running the other team's plays.
Yep, run the other team's offense.
So that first team defense is prepared for all of these plays, and now you're showing them.
That's right. So it's a toss around the right side. You know, high school, what do? Well, I catch the ball and run to the end zone.
And you're going to outrun those guys,
yeah, right? So I get the toss, and the defensive end starts to run towards the sideline. He's just stretching it, and I'm running. I'm giving it everything I have, and he beats me to the sideline.
Whoa!
I remember it was he weighed like 315 pounds. His name was Manaia Brown. Wow! And so he goes out, and he must have been 6'4", and he beats me out there. And so I'm like, all right, he beats me, and so
you're going to cut back.
I square up on him, and I give him a little shake, and he doesn't budge. And so I go head and shoulders down, and I hit him. And I remember it being the most non-violent hit in my life. I gave it everything I had. He just put his shoulder under me and scooped me up and wrapped me and pulled me off my feet. They blew the whistle. remember he lets go and I dropped maybe 6 inches to the ground and caught myself. And I started jogging.
So he didn't even take you down. He didn't even take you down. Wow.
And so I started jogging back to the huddle thinking, what in the world am I doing here, man? This is a different this is a different league. Yeah, that was awakening.
My first year here, I was here as a weak side linebacker. And we were doing the same thing. We were running the other team's defense against the first team offenses, our first team offense. But there was a play that BYU had back then. It was like a double reverse. And back then, the offensive tackle, if this is the line of scrimmage, the offensive tackle could peel the other way and the reverse goes this way and then it comes back. And then back then they could do a full, blindside block. What did we call it back then? A crackback. Yeah, a crackback block. And he was being Brad Oates, 6'8". He was probably only 260, 270. Back then, the offensive linemen weren't as big as they have been lately. But Brad was nice. He says, Lacey, we're running the double, reverse. Okay, thanks. So I know that he's going to hit me when I'm coming back to try to protect against that double reverse. So there are some nice players. This Manaia Brown picked you up and treated you kindly.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, like a child. Yeah.
It's humbling, isn't it?
It really
when
is.
You come here. Now you were a walk-on. How was that? Tell us about the walk-on experience coming from Pennsylvania. You're all state. You score 6 touchdowns in one game, I read. And now you're a walk-on running back at BYU. Is that a big change in your life?
It was. Yeah, that's a big humbling change, right? Going into a big pond now. And, and not being local, I didn't have any friends out here. I wasn't set up with any of the football players. I was in the dorms, put in with. You
didn't have another football teammate or roommate or.
No, because I walked on, right?
Sure.
And so I just kind of went through the normal thing there. So
you were randomly selected for a roommate, right? Probably.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so I ended up, and it was far. I was in DT at the time.
And that's hard.
Yeah. So every morning, workout started at 6. And so I was up at 5, as a young kid, that's early. I'd jog down there, hit my workout and jog back. And so it was a lot, and they don't take it easy on the walk-ons, right?
Help me with one thing, because 2 of the young guys that I just interviewed recently actually came here with less ties to BYU than you. And they both expressed how at first it was just overwhelming. One of them was calling his mom 3 times, I got to come home. Was it hard? I mean, most of us when we were freshmen had a little bit of a homesickness, but you particularly with this football and having to get up early, run all the way from Deseret Towers down to the football facility and then back. That sounds like a hard life. A hard freshman year.
Yeah, at the time, you're just focused on the goal.
Good for you.
I didn't think anything of it. It wasn't a call mom and dad. It was, I'm here focused. I had a brother who lived in Orem, so I'd see him, sometimes. So,
but now we can see how you became a triathlon guy.
Yeah.
You can take the pain and you love it.
Yeah, I know. So it was, like I said, those walk-ons, they try to make sure you really want to be there.
Yes.
And they put you in some real hard workouts. And I remember one time I showed up late for my morning workout.
Oh. Is this still when Gary Crowton was the coach?
Gary Crowton was the coach there.
Who was the coach in charge of the early morning workouts for the walk-ons?
It was Coach Omar.
Okay.
And Justin McClure.
Okay.
And so Justin was there, and we were in the old field house at the time. I remember walking in, and he's like, "Hey, Joe, go find your group." I was like, "Oh." And I was like maybe 6 minutes late. And I was like, "Oh, wait, he took it easy on me." Okay. I got in the group, lifted hard, did the whole thing. Hour and a half later, it's about time to go. And Justin's like, "Hey, when's your first class?" And it's 7:30. I was like, "Oh, it's not till 9 today." He's like, "Oh, great." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Go hit the rower."
I've got some other work for you.
Exactly right. I'm like, dang it. So I get on that rower and I'm rowing. Then he leaves. I'm the only person in the whole gym. There's no one around.
Really?
And he just leaves. So now I'm rowing thinking, all right, there's got to be a camera somewhere. I was like, I can't slack off. I'm like, I'm looking around.
Your back starts getting numb.
Oh yeah. But yeah, he came back. It wasn't too bad, but it was an interesting experience where, always being pushed.
I had a son that came here as a walk-on, and this was during the Bronco Mendenhall years. And I know that you were here during Gary Crowton's tenure at the beginning, and then you came back to Bronco Mendenhall's system. Do you have any experiences that are worth repeating or sharing with us, in the difference of those head coaching or those coaching staffs?
Yeah, there's a lot. So I actually had 2 years with Crowton.
Okay.
My, redshirt year and then freshman year. And then when he came back, it was kind of there during who's going to be the coach.
Oh.
And then, when it was Mendenhall, it was hard on a lot of guys in the team because understanding, we'd get little, those rubber bands on, and we had a team, where it was,
a slogan?
Slogan, yep, there we go. So the slogan, remember, we had ADE was on our wrist: accountability, discipline, and effort. And that's a far cry from, where Crowton
what was going on during those times. So this new band wasn't during the Crowton tenure. It was a new. Who implemented that?
So that was that was basically.
It sounds like something Bronco Mendenhall.
What Mendenhall brought. I remember he came in his first year, so it was going from the way Crowton kind of coached a little bit different.
In business, we called that the little bit of a laissez-faire. And I'm not being derogatory at all. I'm saying there are different types of leadership. And one of them is, give them enough rope to hang themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And another is very controlling. And both of them tend to work. And sometimes either of them can fail. And you probably saw some of both.
That's right. Yep, exactly right. And it's really the discipline side of it that I saw the biggest.
Interesting.
And it was to where, you knew what you're getting with Coach Mendenhall. And what I saw was that, he implemented exactly what we wanted to see. Practice needs to be run this way. Everyone's going to be behind the line. Everyone touches the line every drill. Every drill's run this way. It was the point where when Coach wasn't out for practice, it was spring voluntary practices, and they've looked and felt exactly like real
same
practice.
thing. Isn't it interesting, Joe, that the leadership that we saw or witnessed or participated in our intercollegiate athletics applies so much to our lives afterwards?
Yeah.
What you're saying, applies to this team that you're building.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, just to see, it's interesting because that's what the expectation ends up being. And then when you get thrown into a group that's not that, you
can feel it.
You can feel it. You feel the not everyone's bought in. And it was interesting because, Coach Mendenhall, so we had position, captains. I ended up being our running back captain our senior year. Yeah.
That's cool.
And so, we would meet with our leadership team. I forget what we called it, but it was, all the position captains, and we'd meet with Coach, Mendenhall and the coaching staff, once a month, basically. And it was, how's the team? How are the running backs? What's the feel? What do we need to do different? And it was, I'm tied in close with the group, and, Coach and the staff wanted to make sure they're tied in close to what's the real feel of the team. And it kind of set up a little bit like a corporate structure, but there was times when they would ask us, hey, what do you guys want to accomplish this year? What as a team and then as a running back group.
And this was 2007.
That's right. Yep. 2007 going into it was 2006 going into the second year. And it was, what do you want to accomplish? And then we'd go to our team and we'd all talk and collaborate, and we'd put a couple goals up on there. And then it turned into, hey, this is what you guys want to accomplish. We as a coaching staff are going to do everything we can to help you achieve your goals. And right away, then they're bought in. It's not Coach telling you what we're going to do.
It's not going to be hard to make you guys accountable.
Exactly right.
These are the things you set up.
Exactly. And this is what's going to take for you to achieve your goals. And then you pivot as you need to. But it was one of those things where, I saw a full team get bought in. And I saw along the way the teams getting bought in more and more and holding each other accountable. And if someone didn't buy in, you could tell, and then there's a fallout. And they usually self-selected.
And after what happened, and, I wasn't close to circumstances in Gary Crowton's years, so I don't want to cast any blame anywhere. But there wasn't that buy-in, obviously, with certain groups or individuals, nor was there the accountability to teammates. So what do you see? I mean, the contrast in Bronco Mendenhall's corporate management style that he brought in that was interesting. What I guess you're already sharing the contrast, but I mean, young men will be young men, no matter where you are, in a church, school, or elsewhere. I understand that. And a lot of those young men who may have not been bought in at those earlier years in their lives end up becoming, bishops and stake presidents in the church when they weren't even members at BYU. So I saw the value of the whole team bringing everyone along, even though some guys were in the margins, let's say. So I'm sure there were young men in the margins when you were there. How did you as a team and coaching staff, help these guys kind of stay within the model?
Sure.
Sorry.
That's perfect. Culture's everything.
Okay.
I mean, especially at BYU, it's a very, very different and special culture, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that leads everything, right? The culture and why we're there, at BYU, that leads everything. But it wasn't the culture. I wouldn't say culture was, hey, everything is LDS. LDS, we're doing it this way. It was first love for each other and the team.
Really?
That's number one. Is
so kind of similar
brothers.
To what we're seeing with Coach Sataki's culture.
That's right. It was also interesting because they had us fill out a questionnaire at one point.
The coaching staff
when Bronco came in, maybe his first or second year.
Uh-huh.
And it was a lot of questions, scale of 1 to 10. How do I feel about a lot of different kind of topics? And what they did was they took all that data together from the team, and they used that in recruiting. I heard they use that in recruiting, saying, hey, let's see if someone's going to be a cultural fit, whether they're the same religion or not. This is kind of the mentality and attitude of,
So they didn't give that questionnaire to their recruits, did they?
I have no idea. But maybe I was during their questioning or as they're interviewing, they may have done their own version of it. Again, making sure they're a cultural fit to us.
Right. No, that's important. That's fascinating, Joe. I had a son, but this was later in 2012, so he walked on to Coach Mendenhall's team and was on the team, and then he went on a mission, and then he got injured. And so, the culture was unique to what was before that. Coach Crowton's culture was unique to what Coach Edwards had. Bronco Mendenhall's culture was certainly unique after Coach Crowton, and then now Coach Sataki's culture is very unique, and yet they all have good that was coming out of them. What were the best things you saw
while I was there,
or bad things? I don't know. Yeah, while you were there, or have seen.
No, I saw a lot. And different, like you said, different is good, but the game's changing, kids are changing, social media, to pull the right talent, and mentalities are changing, and so to be a good coach, you have to shift with things, I think.
True.
And so, to grab Lavelle from the 80s and have him come in and coach today, he may be successful or may not resonate at all with the way kids are now, right?
True.
And so it's a forever, shifting. It's forever shifting. So for me, it was a big deal on accountability and just how close the team was. we had one specific instance where, remember the movie 300? The 300 Spartans came out.
I think I do, but not refresh
Battle
our
of
memories.
Thermopylae, and it was so basically 300 Spartans, were fighting off, army of thousands and thousands. And that was kind of the theme for that year. And during fall camp, they had, so in the movie, Leonidas leaves to go to battle, and the queen's there, and she says, come back with your shield or on it. So, don't lose. You either die or you win, right? And so what we did is we had an activity, we got in some groups and whatever, and we had little cardboard shields that we cut out. And I guess these Spartans would have things on the back of their shield to remember and remind them why they're fighting. While they're in there against all odds, they're likely going to die in this battle, to keep them, firm and show why they're battling. And so we did that same thing. So we went, we had kind of 5 things that we put on that, we drew some pictures or whatever, and this is why we're battling.
And this is at the behest of the coaching staff for you, all the players.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
And that was during fall camp.
Mm-hmm.
So during 2-a-days, you work out, eat, work out, and this was meetings in the evening, activities. And so everybody did one, and they had their shield up along the team room, and it was in there all year.
And these are your motivations on the inside of your shield.
Yep.
Okay.
And, so fast forward into season. And so, everyone has their shields up with their motivation. And then, before games, you go to the hotel, and before you go to the stadium, they'll show highlights from the year before, if it's the first game, or from the game before. Super loud, dark room, like you're getting your mindset right. And they're showing highlights from the week before. This is your pump up. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
So they have that. So everyone's super high and just ready to go. And then they'd call 1 or 2 people to grab their shield and go in front of the team and explain to them what their why is.
Mm.
And holy cow, man. Every week is a tearjerker. You learn things about your teammates and their background and their family and just the emotions, and like immediately bonded us together. I mean, going from like the super high to, hugging your brothers and just going to battle together. And it was awesome.
That's so good.
Yeah, that was one where I'm like, man, that's hard to replicate something like that.
I love that. It's interesting because this last one that came out, I interviewed Trey Alexander and LeMason Waller weeks ago, but they're both freshmen, both highly recruited by many, many Division I schools, both with great accolades in their high schools, and they chose over a lot of SEC schools and the old, I guess Pac-12, but other competing schools, chose to come to BYU. And it sounds like they're having this same experience, because these young men who are not members of our church where we bear testimony, I know a lot of churches have testimonies, but they use the word, we have testimonials or testimonies. And you learn about your teammates and I think they said their why, but it was obvious that they were doing the same thing that you're doing. Right. And these young men who are just freshmen, one of them from Atlanta, the other from Hesperia, California, they said they were driven to tears sometimes listening to their teammates from all these different parts of the country and why they're there. And that's interesting. And so I'll go to battle with my brother now because I understand why he's here and what he's overcome. And I think that's fascinating. So how do you apply that to your business world, or can you?
That's a tough one.
I wonder.
I think that one's tough.
It probably gets too, because we're not in battle. We're not like the Marines, and we're not going to go, this might be it,
Mm-hmm.
But we all need to have a why. So you sell me, Joe. Here I am. I don't want to tell everybody I'm 68 years old. What should why should I have a why in my life?
Well, I think your deeper why drives everything that you do. It depends what your goal is.
Good.
I think your why has to drive, your goal drives your why. I don't know.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, some people are driven by what they want to accomplish in their profession. Others by, I want to get home to my 3 children and provide for them. And every day here in the United States, we have an opportunity to have a win.
Yeah, that's very true. My mom came from Portugal when she was 9.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And so same thing. Her dad came before that, and that was their goal. Yep, to have some opportunity here.
And what a wonderful country we have.
Oh, it's great.
And what's so cool about it is we have people from so diverse, and you look at the political things, and I love people on both sides of the coin, and so we're very blessed to be here. Joe, we could talk about 2 backs versus 1, and how both you and I were in the 2-back system, and how we could go convince Coach A-Rod that having another fullback on the field is like having an extra tight end, and we can have a lot more completions.
Let's hold on. Having a fullback on the field is like having an extra tailback or a tight end.
There you go.
Or an extra lineman, whatever you need to do, right?
Even better, brother. Oh,
receiver, you're
out there. All right, you and I, we're going to go talk to the coaching staff because we know better than they. I'm kidding. It's fascinating, the metamorphosis that we see on the football field. You talked about Lavelle to Bronco to Kalani, and now how the 1-back set is all the rage. And you and I, as ex-fullbacks, they need a guy who could be a tailback, who could be a blocking back, or could be a tight end on some routes.
Yeah, right. Man, I loved our 2-back. We ran split backs. I bet we were 50% of the times running split backs or 2-back formation.
That's where we were.
Yep. And then, but also we were.
And who was your offensive? Well, Gary Crowton, offensive coordinator. Coach and I.
Yeah.
Brad and I.
Coach and I was.
I mean, not Brad.
Robert.
Robert and I.
Yep.
And Robert was a center during my years.
Yeah. Up to an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And so we were 50-50 run pass as well. We were right down the middle there. Yeah. But like I said, for us, when I was there, let's say 2006 and 7, even 2005, just running back by committee. One, everybody was fresh. Everyone was fresh, and everybody could really do each position. Could run, could pass, could catch. And so, like I said, senior year there with Harvey, Fui, Manase, we had Wayne Latu there as well, coming in and out. We were successful, in my opinion, is because our offensive line was so good. We had some of the Reynolds brothers in there,
mm-hmm.
and Jake Caressa, and we had these guys who, some of these guys went onto the league, but they would be fine, and they'd always win their one-on-ones when they're on an island. And so our running backs were effective because we never had to chip, or we never had to, wait to see if a lineman gets
beaten.
Exactly right. And so it was check release if there was no backer or, any blitzer coming. And so, our tight ends were successful. We had Dennis Pitta in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all because our offensive line was so good that it let our running backs get out on routes. And
you had more freedom.
Exactly right. So then the linebacker would come after squeeze a, running back on a swing and open up the hole, for the tight end to sit in a curl. And so, stemming from that good old line and then having a bunch of fresh running backs just swapping in and out. And it was fun.
I have very similar experiences. We had so many of our offensive linemen went on to play in the NFL. Guys like Bart Oates and Nick Ayer and many, many others. And so we had that luxury as running backs to not as often have to be. So frequently we were both on the pass, the
mm-hmm.
halfback and the fullback. We're both on pass routes along with the tight end. And it was too much for the linebackers and the safeties to cover all these guys in that 5 to 10 yard
right
range. And so our quarterbacks had really high completion percentages. But I love the metamorphosis because now we hit a few more home runs.
Mm-hmm.
We have outside wide receivers that are unbelievably good nowadays.
Oh, yeah. And that's been fun to watch.
Oh,
Just
it
this
has
explosive offense. You're never out of the game, you know.
But I'm just wondering if our quarterbacks are going for the home run a few too many times.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be.
But I'm glad I'm not the quarterback. I'm so glad we have young men like Jake Retzloff and those who've been there before him.
Yeah, they've definitely been fun to watch. This morning, I was at the gym, and I saw a good friend of mine, Brian Keel, there.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, Brian and I all see him at the gym a couple times a week in the mornings. And I was telling him I was going to come in, you know, and do your podcast today. And he shoots me a text, and he says, "Hey, make sure you tell them who caught the go-ahead score in the game that changed the program trajectory." and so,
You're not telling me a linebacker.
No, it was me.
Oh, wow.
That's
That's cool.
what Brian said. So 2005, we're about to play an away game down at New Mexico against New Mexico.
Okay.
And, you know, earlier on that week, maybe a Wednesday, you know, you traveled out on Friday, but on the Wednesday, we find out that one of my teammates had broke a team rule and they suspended him for the game. So that was Fahu Tahi gets suspended for the game. And so, you know, Curtis Brown was there, and he was our starting, you know, tailback. And, you know, as we're on the way down there, Coach Reynolds was like, "Hey," he's like, you're gonna, you know, accompany Curtis there for the start.
Cool.
And so what they did was they rotated Manase and myself in
At fullback.
for Curtis, you know, for Fahu.
Oh.
So it was really Curtis, Manase, and myself that game. Manase was a freshman. And, yeah, went down, walk on a sophomore, you know, get the ball a couple times and end up catching a swing pass and scoring a go-ahead touchdown against New Mexico.
I think that's the picture I have from Jess.
Yeah, probably.
I think you were okay.
Yeah.
Awesome against New Mexico.
And then we end up winning. It was a close game. It may have been, I don't remember the exact score, but it was a close game, maybe a 6-point game, and we end up going, I think we went 6-5 that year to squeak out a bowl game against Cal.
Great.
And then the next year we went 11-2. Year after we went 11-2.
Wow.
And so that's Brian giving me. He's like, you tell him you turned the whole trajectory.
I ran into Brian Keel. He was playing golf with Austin Cawley at this golf club that I'm a member of.
Oh, nice.
And they both gave me their numbers. And so I want you to tell them how great this podcast is, because I would love to talk to him.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. We'll get you connected there.
Please do. I have his number. He gave me his number, but
okay.
I felt more like I was a fanboy getting his phone than anything else. Joe, I've loved what you've shared with us. And, you know, if you don't mind, if you want to talk about your why that you have now, or any other deep feelings or thoughts or other stories behind your seasons, behind the teams that you played, because I know there have to be a lot of deep ones with the transitions that were going on during the period that you were playing. What can you think of a particular that you'd like? Maybe we just need to go more in depth on this transitional catch that you made against UNM.
As I think about what made us successful, you know, where the why came from, man, it's just something I'm just really, really grateful to be part of those teams and part of that experience. Because, you know, like you said, where, you know, we had 4 running backs, and, you know, when I'm in there with Harvey, he's a tailback. If there's both of us in the game, he's getting the ball. Everyone knows it. He's getting the ball and lead blocking. But it was funny because there's times where we're split back and we would run out of shotgun where we're split back and it may be a lead to the right. I was the right back. I'd go forward and lead. Harvey would come across, you know, John Beck or Max Hall in front of him, take the ball and follow me. But, you know, if we saw blitz coming there, he'd call it to the other side.
Audible.
Same play to the other side. Audible.
So Harvey's leading for you then.
Right. Well, we're supposed to switch. right?
Oh,
they call
really?
an audible is supposed to switch.
Oh.
And so there's been plays where, they call the audible and we're about to switch. Harvey looks at me, he's like, no, stay there. I'm like, all right, man, my coach is going to kill us, but let's go. And so the fact that he didn't mind blocking, I mean, it was, like I said, happy to give each other touches instead of taking it. No, man, you take this one. I'll block here. Yeah, let's get you in the end zone. Like,
good for Harvey.
Yeah, and that's
awesome.
For Fui and Manase.
Is that when you scored your touchdown?
The same way. Well, that was my first one. I was a check down.
Okay.
And then actually the others were, what did they call the play? The old waggle, where I'd go like I'm blocking the defensive end and slip into the end zone. That's where I got the other touchdowns.
So anyway, you were talking Fui and...
Yeah, and so
you all shared.
We all shared, but our running back room was great, but the whole team was that way. And there were games, man, I think it was Eastern Washington or something, where it was a close game, and we were supposed to be just mopping the floor with these guys. And then seeing, Harvey comes out with a bunch of fire and just takes the team on his back, and everyone gets up with the emotion, and we end up rolling over him pretty good. There's other games where, we were 11 wins, but I think we were either down or only up by, single digits on 6 or 7 of our games in the fourth quarter.
Close games.
And so, you see the team and look around, you're down with 4 or 5 minutes to go. There's zero panic. We knew we were better than the teams we were going to play, that we hadn't been playing to our own potential, and we knew we were going to put it together.
All right, let's put the foot on the gas and
that's right.
Up.
Like, to see the swagger for the team when we walk out to the game, knowing we have each other's back and knowing we're the better team, knowing we're going to do whatever it takes, regardless of all the situations, fumble, special teams, mishaps or whatever, that you look at John or Max in the eye, our offensive line, just calm and collected, cool, knowing we're going to battle. We're still going to get it. And that's something that, that's always kind of stuck with me where, preparation's already been done. It's time to deliver and execute. Things are always going to happen, but remember you're a lion, regardless of what else is happening.
I love that. In fact, it applies to your life today, because you still. What did you say? You said earlier that something about if you didn't feel angry or frustrated after a loss.
Yeah, what was that? I don't know. That was kind of off the cuff, but like I said, now I'm still competing in things, whether it's triathlon or pickup basketball, pickleball, tennis, those things.
Sure.
Like when I lose. And I think we're all this way. Everyone's so competitive. But, like just that miserable feeling in your chest when you lose. I was like, if I don't feel that after a loss, then I know I'm going down the wrong path.
Well, and there's truth to that. I mean, you choose to do something that's very difficult, these Ironmans and things. I compete on the tennis court or on the golf course. And those are much less painful, although they're very painful emotionally.
Yeah, no kidding. I know. I've been getting into some golf, and yeah, it's frustrating.
But Joe, I'm so impressed with your experiences as a fullback, the guy who has to block for those famous tailbacks that are behind us. For the periods of time that you were transitioning with the BYU team, and now taking these leadership examples that you have into your business. Thank you for all that you've shared with us. Any other stories or final thoughts you have for us?
Really, again, back to BYU culture and just the brotherhood that we have as a team, those of us that have played throughout the decades, that it's just this deep connection that, we met today, and just feel like we have the same lineage, and that it is a brotherhood. It's a real brotherhood that I feel, and those guys that I've directly played with and battled with for years. Brian's funny because we're teammates, but he was a linebacker, and so we battled every single day.
You ran into each other some,
right? And so you win some, you lose some, and but afterwards. You have this deep bond that, doesn't go away.
And I felt that. Now, Brian Keel's a guy that has accomplished much beyond his BYU football career. And yet I don't feel that there's any judgment from my friends, whether my stats are like this or your stats are like that. I feel accepted and part of this brotherhood. I'm happy you said that throughout the decades. And it's fun that there's this brotherhood, not only from a football team, but a school and all that both of those organizations represent.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Great job, Joe. Thank you for appearing with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching another episode of Beyond the Game. Remember to click here to subscribe and click here to watch our recent videos. Also, please follow us on social media. And remember, go Cougs.